I never believed in the so-called snowman until I came face to face with him. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 years ago, and even now I still wake drenched in sweat when the memory drags me back. My name doesn't matter, but what does is that I've been a park ranger for 15 years. I've dealt with grizzlies, cougars, wolves, every creature that can make your blood run cold out there. But nothing, not one encounter, prepared me for what waited in those woods. It started with a phone call on a Tuesday morning at the end of September. The leaves had just started to shift color, and I was looking forward to the quiet stretch before winter. My supervisor called around 7, far earlier than usual, and I could tell instantly something was wrong. His voice was tight, controlled, the kind that hides panic behind authority. He said there was a special assignment, highly confidential, triple pay, triple. That should have been my first warning sign, but my truck had broken down the week before. The repairs had gutted my savings, and my daughter's college fund was hanging by a thread. I told myself it was just a dangerous animal case. A rogue bear, a puma killing livestock, and some big money landowner wanted it handled quietly. He refused to explain more on the phone, only told me to meet at the ranger station at 6 the next morning, and not to speak a word about it to anyone, not even my wife. I barely slept that night. The silence in the house was heavy, as if something already knew what was coming. When I pulled into the station before dawn, a black pickup was waiting in the lot, engine idling. Steam curled from the exhaust in the cold air. 3 men sat in the back wrapped in thick jackets. I recognized 2, rangers from neighboring zones, good men, steady hands. The third was a stranger, but he had that hardened, sleepless look of someone who spends too much time in wild country. No one spoke. We climbed into the bed of the truck without question. The air tasted metallic, like frozen sap and exhaust fumes. The driver didn't say a word either. He just shifted gears, and we rolled out toward the mountains. For the first 20 minutes, I recognized the roads, routes I'd taken 100 times. Then the truck veered onto a narrow service trail I'd never seen on any map. The forest closed around us like a throat, branches scraping the sides of the vehicle. The path was barely 2 tire ruts in the mud, and every rock we hit jarred my bones. Around 40 minutes in, the passenger in front turned to face us. That's when I realized he wasn't one of us. He wore a black suit and polished shoes that looked ridiculous out there. His tie was perfectly knotted, his hair combed tight, like he'd stepped out of an office minutes ago. But his face betrayed him. He was pale, sweating despite the cold. His eyes had the tremor of someone who'd seen something he couldn't process. When he spoke, his voice cracked. He told us we'd be paid more than we'd ever earned for one job, but we were forbidden to talk about what we'd see. Ever. The situation was classified, he said. If information leaked, there'd be serious consequences. He didn't say what kind, but fear dripped from his words. It wasn't a threat. It was a confession. No one asked questions. The silence in that truck grew heavier than the gear we carried. I kept watching the man in the suit. He kept checking his watch and glancing out the back window toward the woods, like he expected something to follow us. His hands shook when he wiped sweat from his brow, even as our breath came out in clouds. After another hour, we stopped. The place didn't even qualify as a clearing, just a spot where someone had cut enough trees to fit a vehicle. The forest pressed close on every side, dark even in morning light. The man stepped out, opened a leather briefcase that didn't belong anywhere near mud or pine needles, and spread a topographic map on the truck bed. Military-grade detail. He pointed to a spot deep in the wilderness, 8 to 10 miles from where we stood. That would be our base camp. Another mark, 2 miles out from that, was where we'd set the traps. His finger trembled while tracing the routes. He called the target an animal. Large, aggressive, responsible for several tourist attacks. We were to capture it alive if possible. Lethal force was authorized if absolutely necessary. He stressed that it was dangerous beyond normal classification, that we should treat it with extreme caution. When he lifted the tarp covering our equipment, my stomach tightened. These weren't bear traps. They were bear traps made for giants, 3 feet across, steel jaws with teeth 6 inches long, chains thick enough to anchor a ship. I'd never seen anything like them in my career. One of the rangers whistled under his breath. "What the hell are we hunting?" he muttered. The man in the suit hesitated. Then he said, "The species hasn't been identified." He wouldn't meet our eyes. I noticed how carefully he avoided the word bear. We should have left then. Every instinct I had screamed wrong, but the promise of money, the weight of pride, and the unspoken challenge of the unknown kept us moving. We loaded the traps onto our packs, each one easily 60 pounds, and set off into the woods. Within minutes, the forest changed. It wasn't just quiet. It was hollow, like sound itself refused to exist there. No bird calls, no insect buzz,